Hey, what's up everybody? Video 44 coming at you in another video. Alright, so listening to Anthony Irwin this morning about the Lakers, and essentially he was painting a picture for us about our roster spots and how bad we're looking right now with the roster spots, and we got some guys on there that are not ready to play, and you know, he brought some balance to the table as well, essentially saying he understood what the Lakers are trying to do in regards to you know, trying to be careful to not give up things that ultimately they want to use in bigger deals, but they've been ultimately poor around the margins in his assessment. And, you know, we just need to get better quickly, or else we're going to throw away the timeline. It's more or less what I took from what he was saying. You know, my thing is just, what does it take to get better? What is it going to require that you take on deals that leave you on the shorter end of the stick so that you can improve the back of your bench? Giving up draft capital is ultimately going to be also a loss that needs to be taken into account. And I just think that they've chosen what they may feel is the lesser of two evils by letting some of these things go that make us much better right now, so that they can preserve what they have for later. And that's kind of been my point of view as well. You just kind of, we understand that there are a lot of things the Lakers can do to make this team better, but those things that are required to do are going to make it so that your team bottoms out real bad later on, and maybe that's just not the way to go. Maybe that makes your team worse, all in all. So that's really what it is. It's like, yes, do we need to get better? Are some of these things not good that are, you know, in place? Yeah. Could we maybe have taken some risk to improve our short term that maybe we wouldn't regret in the end? I think that would have to be defined to me. I would have to know what's on the table, because the stuff that I've heard doesn't feel like a worthy risk. I don't regret that in the long run, some of the things that are being reported. And I think that's where I part ways with a lot of people who are ready to make moves right now. I just think it's going to cost more than I'm willing to pay if I'm in the front office. Some of the things that the Lakers have to do, trading picks away, you know, taking on deals that you don't have leverage to really be in a good spot for. The desperation alone is going to make it so that people are going to identify that you are probably going to be willing to pay more for what it is that ultimately you need to do. So it's like that alone makes it so that any deal you do is bad. Any deal that you have in place is going to ultimately make you worse. So for me, it's like, personally, not a big fan of the make a move to get better for the short term. Not because I don't want to get better, but because I know it's going to make it so that I'm probably swallowing somewhat of a poison pill in order to do so. And I'm of the mindset that you never swallow poison pills. Never. Because in the end, it's poisonous. It's not meant to help you get better. It's meant to kill you. You know what I mean? You ain't gonna swallow a poison pill because for the politics, everybody's taking some sort of pill, so let me swallow this one. No, that's gonna kill you. You don't want that. And so for me, it's like, that's kind of how I'm looking at some of the stuff the Lakers are forced to do. It's not just that we need to make moves, it's that everybody knows we need to make moves. And I think that's why you need somebody to be able to identify in the situation that some stuff, for the sake of trying to keep the superstars, also isn't worth it. That's where I think the Lakers have made the biggest mistake, is assessing that being in this space that makes it so that you have to do certain things without leverage puts you in a very unfortunate position to where some of the stuff that the superstar demands that also is keeping you without leverage probably shouldn't be done either. I think the big picture that the Lakers are saying is, we'd rather be not good enough with Bron and AD than not good enough without them. However that looks, whether it be resetting or trying to do a partial rebuild, I think the Lakers organization has defined not being good enough with AD gives us a closer chance at being good enough than not being good without AD and Bron. So that's what I think they're ultimately looking at. We'll do this, and this. And yes, it makes the team not good enough. Yeah, we have a bunch of roster spots going in some places we shouldn't, but we're not giving away draft capital. We're not making it so that LeBron James doesn't want to be here. We're doing exactly what we can within the margins of what is responsible for us. And since we have so little leverage with the superstar in place, we don't want to do any deals that are going to leave us without leverage in the market. That's what I think the Lakers are looking at. And listening to the insiders and looking at what's going on, I think they just said, let's do everything Bron wants to do, and whatever losses come with that, we're fine with. On the other end, we can't take any losses anywhere else. And if it leaves us to being a 40-win team in the play-in tournament, then that's a lesser of two evils than doing something that makes LeBron James sign with the Knicks and then seeing what our life looks like after that. I think that's what they're looking at, man. I think that's what they're looking at. It's like a no way out kind of situation. So which one of these evils were you willing to do? And so for those of us who are saying, take on the LeBron James world of things, which is signing his kid, signing his coach, giving him a contract, all these different things, and take some losses in the market so that we can be good enough right now. And it's like, nah, we can't be taking all them type of losses as a franchise. Don't work. You can say you're willing to do that for the sake of the short term, but what it looks like on the back end is your team being god awful for years and years and years. Like, that's what it really looks like. And these same people who are holding him accountable for not making moves now are really going to hold him accountable later. So it just is what it is. LeBron James' world of things puts us in a position to have to waste a roster spot. We're already wasting roster spots because we're not willing to make trades in the market that leave us without leverage that ultimately allow us to get rid of some of the stuff that's eating up roster spots that shouldn't be. So it takes draft capital to get rid of Gabe Vincent, Jackson Hayes, if you see him that way, Christian Wood, if you see him that way, Jalen Hood-Schifino, you know. And then they got, like, as he was pointing out on his content, we have so many different roles that need to be filled by competent NBA players, and so many different roster spots going to guys that potentially are not. But it's like, it's because everybody's aware of this, they're gonna make us give up draft capital to fix these problems. And once you start talking about giving up draft capital, now you start talking about different types of problems that you are opening up for the sake of fixing this short-term issue, which is this year's roster. Now you're opening up problems that could potentially span beyond 2 and 3 years when you start giving up your own picks to fix roster problems in a given year. You see what I'm saying? And that's why I think the lesser of the most, the least punishing thing that I've considered in this is trying to take on somebody like Zach LaVine to where we get some picks that are not our own. But even that may not necessarily look as safe when you consider what aprons look like, when you consider getting Zach LaVine here and then needing to undo that and it costing the same picks it takes to lose to get him. You probably end up losing those picks in trying to undo that. So it's like, even that's not good. Even that's a poison pill. It's not something to want in any way, and could potentially be worse than where we are right now. So it's like, everywhere you look when it comes to this Laker thing, you find something that's likely going to make us worse. Even standing still makes you look worse in the short term, but at least standing still in the short term means you're not doing any more long-term damage. Or so it appears. Because even that in some ways is a risk when you consider the deterioration of our reputation for not doing anything, which I think is just a big misunderstanding between those who are watching the situation and what is actually available to do. I think people expect things to be done without actually understanding the landscape as well as they need to know what's wise and what's not. I think and if you capitulate to the understanding that ignorance is what's fueling a lot of your criticism, then you end up making worse decisions. So as I assess how much I care about the peanut gallery and how that is going to put me in a position to do things I don't want to do, I realize that their opinions matter not, because their opinions are going to shift with the next big move that's made. And the only way I'm able to make that next big move is if I don't make any decisions that ultimately hurt me in doing so. So this is what my point of view is, to always ignore those who are saying that Rob Pelinka is doing a bad job when they're not fully assessing everything he's looking at. Has he made mistakes in the situation? Yes. But a lot of those mistakes are things that he has to try to work around now. They're not mistakes that he made now. They're mistakes that were made then, which is why it's so hard to move now. And my argument has always been, if he moves the way these people want him to move, he's just further digging himself into the hole that made it difficult to move right now. That's why I've never been one to say that Rob's doing a bad job this year. I don't think he is. I think he's paying for the mistakes of his past in this job. Things that should have been done better leading up to this point. So if he were to be fired, it wouldn't be because he didn't do something right now. It would be because of the stuff that he may have done that led up to this that made it so difficult to move right now. The full assessment of his job is not about the mistakes that he's making right now, because those things are not mistakes. They're just a natural reaction to the mistakes of yesterday. That's it. And I don't think, like I said, the peanut gallery, a good 99 out of 100 people I'm listening to, they don't fully understand that. They really don't understand that. They're calling him out for not doing a good job, but they don't know exactly what it is that he did wrong. What he did wrong was the stuff he did yesterday. The mistakes that ultimately made it so that it's so hard to do right now what all of you want done. That's the mistake. And you can't undo that. If anything, you can learn from that and now react the right way so that you don't further dig yourself into the hole. And that's exactly what this looks like. Tell you the truth, this is what happens when you do that correctly. You don't move. When you find yourself in quicksand, when you start doing all this flailing and all that, you're going deeper into the hole. You are taking away the little time you have left of possibly being rescued. Not to say that's the greatest example, but the point is, the less movement you make, the more likely you have to extend your life. You moving around in quicksand, boy, you're gonna go down quick. And so that's really what it is. It's that same dynamic. Movement hurts him in most situations. Now, could he get lucky and make a move that doubles and triples in value? Potentially. It looks something like you doing a trade that sends out picks, brings back something and role players, and one of those role players turn into much better than what you expect. That's how you get lucky. That doesn't necessarily mean that looks like a good decision right now, but it could potentially be one, and it ultimately balloons into something great for you. But can you rely upon that? The answer is probably not. No, you can't rely upon that. Most of what it is that looks bad is bad in regards to this market for the LA Lakers. Different moves you want to make, they're going to cost you in the long term. They're going to cost. So for me, I don't make those moves. I understand how much better they could potentially make me in the short term. But if I'm giving away my natural picks and one of these stars roll an ankle, we're tanking for somebody else. We're already tanking for somebody else this season. It's going to be Atlanta who owns our pick right now, unless we get it back from them or they trade it somewhere else, which I really think should be a priority for the Lakers. To try to negotiate with the Atlanta Hawks to try to get that pick back. If I'm being honest with you, that's the safest thing. is get this upcoming pick back for this year. The problem is this is one of the best drafts we've had in years. So nobody's going to be giving up any picks, least of all yours, least of all to you. So that's the problem. I don't think it's a good chance that we get that pick back from Atlanta for really anything we have. Not even Austin Reeves can probably get that pick back. So it's like this year we got to get better so that we're not giving away a great pick to the Atlanta Hawks. But potentially that's not nearly as important as not doing anything else to further dig yourself in a hole. You see what I'm saying? Plus, we got Anthony Davis and LeBron James to carry us to at least decency so long as they're healthy. And while betting on them to stay healthy, it may not be the greatest bet, it's a much better bet than you digging yourself further into multiple years of not having draft picks for the sake of making them marginally better, for which the risk of them getting hurt is still the same. You see what I'm saying? And the chances of you winning the championship don't increase enough for you to be making the moves that you're making that ultimately hurt you in the future, no matter how good it is what you bring back is. Even if you get one of those lucky type of trades where the role player ends up turning into a star, you're still out of your natural born pick. That player rolls an ankle, 40-year-old Bron falls off a cliff, and you still in that same dynamic where you don't have your pick and you got a bad year. So it's like, how many times do y'all want to do this? This is where all our value is. This is where everybody's value is. It's in their own picks and them drafting well and those players doing well for them on rookie contracts. And then being able to re-sign them with their own bird rights. That's how teams are getting good enough in 2024 if you're paying attention. So if you're talking about giving up draft equity, that's not a minor thing to consider. That's a whole nother set of problems, you guys. And that's what I think that Rob Pelinka is weighing. How much better do you want to get if it's going to make us so much worse for so much longer? Y'all want to give this team a fighting chance if it kills any fighting chance the next 7 Laker teams have? No, you don't. Because next year you're going to want stuff. And guess what? It's going to take the stuff that you're giving away in order for you to get that stuff, unless you get lucky. And believe me, if a GM's doing his job, he's not going to let you get lucky. He's not going to give anything up with upside. He's not going to allow you to keep your picks. And he may not even take back your garbage unless you're taking back some garbage too. So it's like, well, if you don't want bad, then it's probably best not to move, man. If you're standing in quicksand, don't do too much flailing. Don't do any movement, really. Maybe you got a fighting chance of somebody saving you. But if you do too much, you sink quicker. And I think that's really what we're dealing with there, man. That's exactly what I think Rob Pelinka is dealing with. And nobody's saying that on the internet. Everybody's saying they gotta move, they gotta move, they gotta move. Certain things just shouldn't have been asked of them if you want them to succeed, is what I would say to Clutch and LeBron James. Bro, we cannot, within our circumstances, have your son on a 4-year guaranteed deal when we got 4 or 5 other roster spots going to guys that are not pros, fam. We're the wrong team for this. You may have the leverage and you maybe do that leverage, but what is it going to cost you when half of your team is no good? And your son is on that team. He screwed up with us too. We both suck. We all suck together. Is that what you want? Because we can't move this guy unless we do something that we ain't got no business doing. We can't let that guy play too much because he's not ready. And it's like so much of that already. So it's like, why do you want to compound that problem if your intention is to win? I understand you don't trust us to sign your son. I understand your son's the most important thing, period. But at the end of the day, what does it look like to help him if he's going to be on a team that sucks and it's going to be his fault? Like, what does it look like to help him if that's what is going to happen when we do all of this? And I just don't think it's enough people making that point. Everybody's telling the Lakers to do stuff to make themselves worse in the short term so all of this can make sense. But who's going to tell LeBron James and Clutch management that they need to not make stuff worse for the betterment of all of us? Don't ask me to put him on this 4-year deal. It should have never been done when you know the circumstances we're in. And if you didn't know the circumstances we're in, then that's where Rob Pelinka went wrong. Not fully laying out on the table what all is going on here. Because a lot of times As I said, 99 out of 100 people don't really get all of this. They know what they want. They know what their timeline is. And they're probably not thinking about too much else than that. With all due respect to all of them, I just don't think they're thinking about everything. Even the people who are closely assessing this stuff ain't thinking about the stuff I've been talking about, because I ain't heard it. And I get it. A lot of people think that the Lakers' future is not as important as the Lakers' present, especially if you're on LeBron James' timeline. But if the things that we're going to do are going to make us worse, and he's not certain he's going to retire this or next year, then he could potentially still be here for the worst of it. Which is what I was arguing 6 years ago, for which we're now seeing. No, you shouldn't want to give away all these young players for an old guy. No, you shouldn't want to surround yourself with old players. Why? Because they can't get nothing in the market. And people were telling me, well, he needs to play with guys that he knows and his generation, and help him win. It's like he could be gone soon. He's still around. He's still around. And my argument is, I'm willing to roll the dice that he'll still be around 3 years from now. As to which all this win now stuff isn't as necessary. You know, some of the names that we have of players that are no good, and we've made this point many times, same new. Some of those guys are still developing. They're still getting better. They're still getting better. Jalen Hood-Schifino is going to improve from here. Max Lewis is going to improve from here. Max Christie is going to improve from here. Austin Reeves, improve from here. Rui Hachimura, improve from here. Jackson Hayes, improve from here. So while we're not in love with them as currently in place, the players that they're going to be tomorrow are worth a lot more than what they are today. So are we sure that it's not a decent bet to just hang on to those guys in our circumstance where we need value? Are we sure that we don't need to hang on to those guys? Now, Christian Wood, who else? There's a few other guys. Gabe Vincent, Cam Reddish. You can probably move on from those guys. They're not going to get better. They're probably anchoring your situation for the most part, because they're not worth anything in the market and they're not expected to get better. So if you can move them, that is probably a plus. Problem is, you move them, what's it going to take for somebody to take them? Well, I tell you, since everybody knows you have 3 first-round picks, it's going to take one of those first-round picks to move the stuff that you don't love off your roster. So, again, if that move is going to make it so that many years ahead I could potentially be doing worse, then how much better do I have to be in terms of risk in order for that to make sense? You understand what I'm saying? Like, getting the trash off my team is an important thing. But if it's going to make me less valuable in the grand scheme of things, then why was it done? You see what I'm saying? Now, do we search out opportunities to get stuff off of our team that we need off of our team? Yes, that should be priority number 1. But that it doesn't get done should not be surprising to anybody, because giving away draft equity to get something off of your team when you don't have a lot of draft equity and you do have the problems we have is a real problem for you. It's not something you just throw in and say it's a solution. It comes with its own problems. And that needs to be really understood. That comes with its own problems. And I told everybody, you want a real solution to all of these problems? You got to trade Anthony for picks. Now, I mean, I would have said Bron too, but of course he's on no trade clause, so that's over with. I don't want to trade Anthony Davis. You see how he's playing in Cleveland, USA? I don't want to move him. So you're stuck to this timeline where everything that needs to be done is too expensive to do. So the best thing you can do in this situation, your best hope, is to take the stuff that you feel is anchoring your team that can get better, showcase it to be better than it is, and trade it when it gets to that value. You trade it when it gets up to that value. You don't trade it when it's low, because you can't afford to do that. And what does that look like when you make that decision? Right now, it looks like you're doing nothing. It looks like you're not making a move at all. It looks like exactly the way it looks right now. And so that's what I'm telling everybody. Are we happy to be in this space where we can't get better? Hell no. Nobody likes being broke. That's essentially what this is. You're cap broke. Nobody likes being cap broke. But if the moves you make you further cap broke, all you're doing is kicking the can down the road. That's all you're doing. I don't want to be broke today. Let me sell what I have that's valuable today for half of what it could be worth tomorrow, so I'm not broke today. If that's not going to ultimately give you an opportunity at a massive payday, then you're going to be broke tomorrow in a way that you're not broke today, because you gave away what you had today that could be worth more tomorrow today. You're just more broke. So it's like, it don't equate to what people think it does. And even if you get the championship, you still got them long years of trash. That's to where the team is going to be less worth looking at than the banner is. You just look up at the banner instead of watching the team, because that's going to be more fun to look at. You understand what I'm saying? Watching paint dry, same analogy. But look up at the banner, because it's going to be better than what's going to be running around on that floor. A lot of y'all want to mortgage a lot of what's going to make y'all even remotely decent for an opportunity at a championship, which a lot of people think makes a lot of sense. The problem is, in the grand scheme of things, your team's still going to suck for a long time. A long, long time. So that's what we don't want on this channel. We understand we're going to be Laker fans next year, with championships hope every year. And while we don't have LeBron James and Anthony Davis every year, which is something that requires a lot of attention in regards to the importance of and the details in making them happy. That is a big thing. You don't want to take them for granted. And you don't want to say to yourself that tomorrow's rebuild and decency is so much more important, or any more important, than seizing the moment with these superstars. But at some point in time, you have to look at the superstars and say, if you and your presence is going to hamper me from doing what it takes to make you better, then it's out of my hands that I not take you for granted, because you made it too expensive to consider you. You see what I'm saying? You've made it too expensive to consider you. What you define as taking you for granted is me not cutting my arm off. I can't do that. And that's what needs to be properly defined as well. While we're sitting here saying, yo, we only got Bron and AD for 2 more minutes. Yes. And in order to keep them happy for the next 2 minutes, I gotta go sit in jail for the next 7 years. Not a good exchange for me. Not even considering how important they are to me. So like, what does people want the Lakers to do, man? When you really assess the situation, what do you want the Lakers to do? Do you want your team to be terrible for 7 years so that this year's team can be good? And if the answer is yes, are you intelligent enough to know that you're going to want those same things next year, as to which, because you did what you did this year, you're not going to be able to? Because if the answer is no, then we don't need to be listening to you no more. As a fan who's been a Laker fan for 30 years, what, none of them years behind us worth throwing away the rest of them 29, fam? None of them. Or even 6 of them. Not the championship years or none of that. None of that was worth it to me, for me to be watching bad basketball for the foreseeable future because of stuff we did today, man. I'm just not on that board. I'm not on board with that. I'm not on board with that. And if it were as simple of a thought as, let me not take them for granted, let me give away picks to get things back and everything will be fine, then we straight. But that is not what the calculus is, y'all. That's not what the math say. The math say cut your arm off, give away your firstborn child, burn your house down so that these people can feel considered. I can't roll with that. Why would I do that? Even if they're valuable, why would I do that? Even if I never get nothing like them again, why would I do that? So that's my point of view. I understand that certain things need to be done to improve this roster. I really wish we could. I really, really wish we could. But the things that are going to be required in order to get that done are going to hurt us a lot more than standing still and doing nothing. That's what I've come to the conclusion of. Could I be wrong? Sure, there are a lot of things that can help us get lucky here. There are a lot of things that a great GM may be able to do to grab some leverage and get a trade that's lopsided in the Laker way. Something amazing is always possible. But that I'm relying upon that to be probable is where I'm making mistakes. When I think Kobe's going to go for 81 and we're going to win by one, going up against a team that's 81 times better than us. I'm not counting on that. Now, if he does it, oh my God. But to say that that's what's required for me to win and demand that, it's just silly of me. And I think that's what people are doing with Rob Pelinka. Real silly stuff like that. Pull a rabbit out of the hat and then turn him into $1 million. Like turn water into wine. Like, who do you think this man is? And then they get mad at him for not doing it. Nah, fam, that's not real. That's not real. And a lot of you say, well, some of this stuff is not as difficult as you make it sound. I beg to differ. This is where we've part ways. I really think a lot of this stuff that people want him to do is going to make us a lot worse. And the only way it doesn't make us a lot worse is if he's scoring 81 points, the equivalent of that. Because if you understand the way the market's set up right now, everything's meant for the Lakers to have to pay more. Everything's meant for the Lakers to be exploited for their desperation. Everybody's shunning the Lakers. It's in style to leave us at the altar right now. You got people like Gary Trent Jr. and Taurean Prince choosing the Bucks over us. It's just in style. So am I supposed to be doing anything in regards to that? No. I don't do anything at all. I stand still, wait for these times to pass, hold on to what I have that's valuable, start the season, play up the value of the young players, and see what that gets me 3 months from now when the market is shifted a different way. When teams start realizing they want to tank for Cooper Flagg and Ace Bailey. You understand? It's going to be a good draft coming up. There's going to be some teams that's going to get off to a slow start. Maybe a superstar goes down with a season-ending injury, changes the trajectory of a team that has their own pick. They may just tank, as to which they may want to move some things. Maybe they move on from some guys that they otherwise didn't think they were moving on from. That's when you have more of a leverage to get the role player that you need, rather than trying to go for that player right now and having so much against you in negotiations. So that's really my point of view. I want the Lakers to keep doing what they're doing. I don't care what the peanut gallery's saying. I don't care what these microwave minds are saying, man. Because at the end of the day, most of them don't know any better than to do something stupid that plays right into the leverage of the other guy's hands and leave us with little to nothing to work with going forward. And they're going to be the same ones who want you to undo that too. And they ain't going to have no logical thought about how you've made this mistake right now so they can't be helped later. They ain't going to think about none of that. They're just going to want you out of here for not. And when was the mistake made? Now, when you decided to mortgage all of that. Not then, when you have nowhere to go. That's where we at right now. So that's my point, man. That's my point. I have no doubt there are things that Lakers could do to get better. I have no doubt that there's some stuff that needs to go. I have no doubt that we can possibly get lucky. There's always a chance. But if you start doing certain things with the belief that being lucky is imminent because you the Lakers, and that's like, man, you about to lose everything. You about to be bad as hell. A lot worse than you would be if you just stand still and do nothing. So that's my point of view. I would like to see us get a point guard. I'd love to see us improve our center position. But if it costs draft equity to give it up, to get that done, then that's just another loss I'm willing to take to keep myself from being bad for years and years and years and years. As I always say, you know, there's always stuff the Lakers can do to get better that we can't afford to do. You bring me Wembanyama and Donovan Mitchell right now, we can win championships. You go get me Luka Doncic and give me Joel Embiid and we can win championships. Of course. It's a bunch of stuff the Lakers can't afford to do that can make them better. What people need to understand is that it's exactly what it is. Stuff you can't afford to do. I'm sorry. You can't afford to do it. BDF 44. I thank y'all for watching. I'm out.